Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for joining us. We'll begin with Shalom Aleichem. If you have a Siddur and you're joining in at home, we're on page number 5. Shalom Aleichem, as you know, is a song, a poem. It's a greeting, and it's also a way of focusing our attention on the power that we have. We can bring peace into the world with the way that we sing, the words that we choose when we offer a greeting. And this prayer, this song, this greeting transcends our own reality. It goes far beyond the people with whom we connect. It touches heaven itself. Shalom Aleichem is on page 5. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Ashoret, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, malachei ashalom, malachei elyon, mimelech, malachei amlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu l'shalom, malachei ashalom, malachei elyon, mimelech, malachei hamlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'shalom, malachei ashalom, malachei elyon, mimelech, malachei amlochim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. On page number 11, on the English side, the left-hand margin, prior to L'chon Aranana, the left-hand margin, finding our way on page 11. Finding our way, that first little stanza. Prayer is no panacea, no substitute for action. It is rather like a beam thrown from a flashlight before us into the darkness. It is in this light that we who grope, stumble, and climb discover where we stand, what surrounds us, and the course which we should choose. L'chon Aranana l'Adonai nari aletzur yishenu nekad mafana b'torah bizmiro nari alo nekad mafana b'torah bizmiro nari alo ki el gadol Adonai umelech gadol Al kol Elohim asher be'ado mekarei aretz v'toaf otarim lo asher be'ado mekarei aretz v'toaf otarim lo. And on page 12 on the English side, if only you would listen today to God's voice and not become hard-hearted like the people at Merivah, like that time at Massah in the desert when your ancestors tried me and tested me, though they had seen what I had wrought. For 40 years I was troubled by that generation, and I said, these are people whose hearts have gone astray. They do not know my way. So in anger I swore they would not enter my rest. What was it about the people who became hard-hearted in the desert? Perhaps they had absorbed an element of those difficult conditions surrounding them. They were drying out. Their souls were drying out. Their spirits were famished. And they were hard-hearted, and they couldn't even see the beauty before them. At one point, I can speak for Minette and also me, some of us have lived in Arizona. And when I first moved to Arizona, I thought, gosh, how desolate. But as I began to open my eyes, and as time passed, I began to see colors that I had never noticed before. Do you know there are even purples in the sands and the rocks of Arizona? So, do we look at the environment around us and only see something superficially and dry out, and our hearts become hardened? Or can we open up our eyes and see the beauty all around us at different types? Arbim shanakut v'tor v'omar to'elei v'hem v'hem lo yidrachai asher nishbati v'api imevon el menuchati. I'm thinking of hard-heartedness, not only in those people who are drying up because of being in a desert, let's say, but you and I are witnesses to a terrifying war right now. And we're thinking of families who are displaced, children who are orphaned, people who may never go home again, people who have witnessed so much loss and sorrow. And that's why I have a song here tonight. It's on the song sheet. We have 2 song sheets and a prayer for Ukraine. And one song sheet bears the song, Sow in Tears, Reap in Joy, brought to us by Debbie Friedman. It's a way of recognizing that we might be starting at a low ebb, but we aspire to climb to a different perspective, a perspective of appreciation, of beauty, of working for beauty. Debbie Friedman's song, Sow in Tears, Reap in Joy. on page 14 on the English side. Page 14, a psalm, Psalm 96. Bow to Adonai in the glory of this holy place. Tremble before God's presence, all who dwell on earth. Announce among the nations, Adonai reigns. The land is firm and will not be moved. Peoples will be truthfully judged. The heavens shall be glad and the earth rejoice. The sea and its fullness roar. The meadows and all that grows in them exult. Even the trees of the forest shall sing praise as Adonai comes to judge the earth, judging lands with righteousness and peoples with divine truth. And the little Hebrew stanza at the bottom, at the phonetic red ink, Yismechu Hashamayim, also on the opposite page, Yismechu. Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagel haaretz. Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagel haaretz. Yeramayam, 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 Omalo, Yeramayam, 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 Omalo, Yeramayam, 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 Omalo, Yeramayam, 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 Omalo, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, V'tagel haaretz. Yeramayam, 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 Omalo, Yeramayam, 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 Omalo. And as you turn to page 15, and we're skimming and we're moving along, you'll see that the theme of heaven and earth recurs time and again in the Friday evening service, which is why we have this song sheet. And the next song is Not Sure Where Heaven and Earth Touch. It's a contemporary tone, you might say, but it's commenting on and embellishing the theme within the early part of the Friday evening service. The heaven itself, the earth itself, all are joining in with you and me as we're singing and we're worshiping and coming closer to God, heaven and earth.
I'm not sure where, I'm not sure how. Maybe later, maybe now, but somewhere heaven and earth touch. Perhaps it's only in a dream, never to be found or be seen, but somewhere heaven and earth touch. I stop and look for miracles of better things to come. Perhaps I'm just too close to see the miracle is you and me. I want to believe in a better day. I want to believe. I want to believe. I want to believe in a better way. And I want to believe that heaven and earth touch someday. In every laugh, in every tear, in every joy, in every fear, somewhere heaven and earth touch. In every light of every day, in everything, in every way, somewhere, heaven and earth touch. We stop and look for miracles, for better things to come. Perhaps we are too close to see the miracle is you and me. I want to believe in a better day. I want to believe. I want to believe. I want to believe in a better way. And I want to believe heaven and earth touch someplace. We look, but do we see? We listen, but do we hear? We touch, but do we feel? The signs are there, they are real.
And on page 21, Mizmor David, a Psalm of David, page 21. Mizmor leDavid, Havul Adonai b'nei Elim, Havul Adonai kavod vos, Havul Adonai kavod shemo, Hishtachavu Adonai b'hadrat kodesh. Kol Adonai al amayim, el kavod hirim, Adonai al mayim rabim. Kol Adonai ba'koach, Kol Adonai behadar, Kol Adonai shover arazim, Vaishaber Adonai et arzei halvanon, Vayarkidem kamo egel, Lebanon v'Siryon, kamo v'nreimim. Kol Adonai chotzev avotesh, Kol Adonai yachil midbar, Yachil Adonai midbar kadesh, Kol Adonai yachol el ayalot, Vayechesof ya'arot, uvehechalo kulo omer kavod, Adonai lamabul yashav, Vayeshev Adonai melech leolam, Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Shalom means peace. And on Shabbat, we do everything we can to bring a sense of peace and calm and rest into our lives. That means usually just sitting, but I'm prevailing upon a good friend, Rabbi Mark Malamat. It's exciting to see you here, and I'm asking you to join me on the beamer just for a moment. Normally when rabbis go out of town, they hope that they can just be spotted, or not spotted inconspicuously, but in a socially distant sanctuary. We know Mark is here, and it's been some years since you were on this bima, but you've been connected to our show for many, many years, and it's a thrill to have you here.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
You want to say a little word or something, a greeting, and a word or something, and then l'chadodi.
Thank you for a wonderful welcome. It is wonderful to be back. And be invited to be up on the bima. Stand here.
I forgot.
I need the mic.
You need the mic.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, sorry.
They have to hear me too?
Yeah,
Let me just hold it?
Just hold it.
Okay, I'll hold it. Can you guys hear me okay? All right. It is great to see everyone, and it's a pleasure to be back here in Mobile, especially because it's still 30, 40 degrees where we are in the New Hampshire, Vermont area. So it's lovely to be here to enjoy some weather, enjoy some Shabbos rest, and to be with Mom. And so I wanted to share, I guess, before we sing Lecha Dodi. It's on 23. Appreciate the invite up from Rabbi. Just a word here before Lecha Dodi, I guess maybe that's appropriate. Often when we sing this each Friday night, we just run right into it and Lecha dodi, right? But I like to pause and think for a minute. Lecha, come, welcome. Dodi, my beloved, my friend, my lover, my intimate one. And so each Friday night, I imagine, what's it like? What would it be like to come into the embrace, to come into the presence of maybe somebody you haven't seen in a long, long while, or a child or a grandchild who lives far away, or a partner you haven't seen in many years for whatever reason. So it's often an imaginative exercise for me to pause, maybe even thinking about my ancestors, those who were here but not here. And before I sing, I like to imagine, what would it be like to greet them and to have them greet me? And so the words of Lecha Dodi, of course, are the words of the Jewish people, greeting God, God greeting us, as well as us greeting Shabbat, and Shabbat greeting us. So it's a beautiful re-encounter. And I guess the sweet thing to say is that I don't have to imagine it, because my beloved is here in the community, my mom, and that's wonderful to be able to sing together today and invite everyone to bring their beloveds here as we sing together. The first couple verses on 23, and then we'll sing the last couple verses on 25. It's been my custom to try and switch tunes in the middle, so if you see me pause and attempt to do that, I'll invite you to sing along with me. First on 23. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Shamur v'zachur b'dibor echad hishmiyanu, el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem Tiferet ve'elitila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'necha ki mekor haberacha merosh mikedem nesucha sof ma'aseh v'makshavat chila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. We're flipping over to 25. Often when we're reunited with our beloveds, there's lots of emotions that come up, lots of songs that come up. So we'll sing together a different version here at 25. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Yaminu smoti frotzi ve'et Adonai taritzi. Hayadish ben parzi ve'nismecha ve'nagila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, la 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 la, pene Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ater ba'ala, gam b'simcha uvtzola, toch emunei ham segula. Boi chala, lecha dodi likrat kala, la 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 la, pene Shabbat nekabela. My favorite point, art. Yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, la la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, ya 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 la la la. I'll hand the mic back over to you.
What a pleasure. What a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to sing together.
What are you doing next week?
Yeah. I don't know, they might need me back there.
Hold on one second. Have a little.
yes.
Shkaya.
Lifesavers.
Lifesavers.
I grew up eating lifesavers sitting in the temple. They used to give me a whole pack.
A whole pack. Well, you know, times are hard, Mark. Times are hard. You come back next week, I'll get you a whole pack.
Well, individually wrapped.
Thank you, Mark. You know, Eileen gets to kvel a little bit having her son on the bima, joining in the service, and it's a pleasure. It's just a pleasure. I always have somebody back home. And thank you for the image, the reminder of pausing and becoming aware of having a loved one close at hand. Psalm for Shabbat on page number 27. Mizmor shir liyom HaShabbat, tov lahodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, lahagid baboker chasdecha, ve'emunatcha baleilot, alei asor v'alei nabel, alei gayon bechinor, mizmor shir liyom HaShabbat, tov lodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ki simachtani Adonai b'falecha, b'maaseh yadecha aranen, magalo ma'asech Adonai mod, amku machshavotecha, mizmor shir liyom HaShabbat, tov lodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. On page 28 on the English side. Surely your enemies, Adonai, surely your enemies will perish. All who commit evil will be scattered. As a wild bull raises up its horn, you raised my head high, anointed it with fresh oil. As my enemies gather against me, my gaze remains steady, for my ears listen and hear. The righteous flourish like the date palm, thrive like a cedar in Lebanon. Planted in the house of Adonai, they flourish in our God's courtyards. In old age, they remain fruitful, still fresh and bountiful, proclaiming, Adonai is upright, my rock in whom there is no flaw. Rising the Borchu, turning the Siddur to page 39b, the Borchu page 39b, we rise. Baruch lo et Adonai Amavorach. Baruch Adonai Amavorach L'olam Voed. We are seated. The first bracha on the English side, page 39b. Baruch atah Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, you completed your work of creation on the seventh day, calling this day from one evening to the next the holy Shabbat, and gave this day of rest in all its holiness to your people Israel. Creator of day and night, rolling light before darkness and darkness from light, making day pass and bringing on the evening, distinguishing day from night. Adonai Tzvaot is your name, living and ever-present God. May your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. El Chai V'Kayom, Tamidim Lo Chalen Olam Voed, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Aravim. Page 40. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadita Al ken Adonai Eloheinu B'shachvenu v'kumeinu Nasiach b'chukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha u'b'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed Ki em chayenu ve'orech yameinu ve'orech yameinu u'b'hem negeh yomam v'laylam ve'ahavatecha al tasir mimenu l'olamim Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Page 41, Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha B'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayo hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha Veshinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha u'valektecha v'aderech u'v'shachbecha v'kumecha Ukishartam lo'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beinenecha uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha. Moment of silence, page number 42. Adonai Elohechem emet. Michamocha on page number 44. Michamocha po'elim Adonai Michamocha Nedar b'kodesh norati lot osef elem malchutecha ra'u banecha bokeh yam lifnei Moshe zeli anu v'yamro Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed v'ne'emar ki fadarna et Yaakov ugalo miyad chazak mimenu Baruch ata Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. We speak often of the Milchamocha. It's a testimony to our ancestors who were enslaved, having become free. We sing, say, recite the Milchamocha twice every day. There's a morning version and an evening version. The Milchamocha is the same, but the other part is slightly different. Every morning, we start our day reminding ourselves of the essential nature of freedom. And every evening, as we anticipate going to sleep, refreshing ourselves for the next day, we talk about how important it is to be free. And in a moment, the Hashkivenu, but prior to the Hashkivenu, again, my head and my heart and my stomach are torn by so many challenges to freedom in our lives these days, these seasons. The Milchamocha is a reminder of, we did it. The Hashkivenu is, that was then, we need it now. So before the Hashkivenu, turning to your song sheet, there's a song, it's called Circle Chant. Circle round for freedom.
Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release.
On page 45, the last bracha. Ensure our going and coming for life and peace, now and forever. May you spread over us your canopy of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us, over all the people, Israel, and over Jerusalem and the world. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha, Baruch atah Adonai, haparei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. A handout, a prayer for Ukraine. And as I've said these past weeks, this prayer is spanning the globe in conservative and Masorti synagogues all across Europe and the Americas. God in heaven, creator of all flesh, worker of wonders, do not stay silent, do not remain voiceless, do not keep aloof, for an evil man has come to power and has declared war on another country, saying, "We will rise up violently against you in battle." But you, God, have commanded us in your sacred scriptures, saying, "Do not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor. I am God." Therefore, make the aggressor desist from destruction. We pray to you now, God of the spirits of all flesh, to use your infinite power to end these acts of bloodshed and terror. Spread peace across the earth and bring joy to all its inhabitants, so that the words of the prophets can be fulfilled. The warrior's bow will be broken, and peace will be promised to all peoples. God will judge between the nations and arbitrate between many countries. They will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against them, neither shall they learn war anymore. Let us say, page 46. V'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam b'nei uvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam oti leolam oti leolam v'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et ha'aretz v'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam uvayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash v'shamro b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam barit olam Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah v'b'chayechon v'yom echon uv'chayedechol beit Yisrael bagala bagala uv'izman karev v'imero amen Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach la'olam l'yolmei Maya Yitbarach Yitbarach Vishtabach Yitpar V'yitramah V'yinaseh V'yadar V'yitale V'yitalau Shemei D'Kedusha Brechu Leila Mikor B'chata V'shirata Tush B'chata V'nechemata Da'amiran B'olma V'imiru Amen. Turn to page 50 before we rise, please. Turn to page 50 for a moment. A reminder that we're stepping into a new time zone at this very moment. This is soon to be Rosh Chodesh, the first day of the new month, and this month that's arriving is Nisan. And I remember when I was a young child, back in the day, there were still Toyota and Datsun vehicles, as some of you recall, and then Datsun rebranded itself and called itself Nissan. And I thought, that's a convenient way of teaching my Jewish people at least one Hebrew month's name, Nisan. This is the month of Nisan. When you look very carefully at the book of Exodus, and you know this because it's quoted in the Haggadah, the month of Nisan, which is the anniversary of our departure from Egypt, is called in the book of Exodus the first month of the year. leaving Egypt promotes the month in which the Exodus took place to first priority, first status, you might say. Now I'm going to ask you a question. You know this. When do we consider the Jewish New Year changing? Which holiday? Rosh Hashanah, we all know that. If you look at the book of Numbers, you will learn that the month in which Rosh Hashanah falls is actually which number of the months? It's the 7th month of the year. So you should rightly ask, wait a minute. If Rosh Hashanah begins the year and it's the 7th month, what's the story with Passover and its month Nisan, which is the 1st month of the year? And it's not answered in the Torah, but I'm going to share my thought. I have an idea. Without Passover, without the Exodus, without political and national freedom, we wouldn't be a community. That's the 1st month, which is starting right now. But we move 6 months into the future, and we get to the 7th month, and we get to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And you all know what Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur stands for. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur means a new start from the heart and the spirit. How you and I reestablish our relationships between ourselves, each other, ourselves, and God. How we take stock of who we are as individuals and as a community. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, in my book, are the beginning of the spiritual new year. Passover is the beginning of what we call the political or national or communal new year. We need both to survive. If we didn't have Passover, or you might say July 4th, we'd have no freedom whereby we would create a society and live and hopefully open the fullness of our spirits. But if we only had a Rosh Hashanah, only the 7th year, and didn't have Passover, how would we live out our lives if we weren't living a life trying to bring freedom for people, ourselves and others, into the world, which is Passover? So we have 2 New Years, the 1st month and the 7th month. And right now, the 1st month begins, and so you see here on page number 50, this little paragraph in smaller print. It says, on Rosh Chodesh, we say this paragraph. Also, Chol HaMoed. Chol HaMoed are the middle days of Passover and Yom Kippur. So when Shabbos falls in the middle of Passover and Yom Kippur, Passover and Sukkot, we say this little paragraph. But we're not talking about that right now. It's Rosh Chodesh. You can read English, you can read Hebrew. So as we rise to the silent prayer, pages 47 through 52, an opportunity for us to offer a private prayer or to include this text, we take stock of moving into the time period, a harbinger of freedom for all. page 54. Yitkara vikara shmei rabbav chimru amen yehei shmei rabbav mevarach leolam lialmei almaya yitbarach yitbarach v'yishtabach v'chatzei v'davar shmei kudusha b'rechu amen. Things are dreaming, amen. It's dreaming, amen. Let's just one of us, shalom, amen. We hope, we think, we see signs of our coming back into a more normal and routine experience, halavai, and we look at the numbers, and the numbers are declining, and shul is now opening, and you know that many areas in our lives are now opening, and it's a relief to be able to come back and see each other in person, to see each other face to face, and to even shake hands and sometimes hug. It's a renewal of life. It's a renewal of energy. A few days ago, there was a significant gathering in Mobile. For many years, the Drug Education Council has had an annual event, and many members of our synagogue have been very involved in the Drug Education Council, which does beautiful work in terms of promoting education and fighting addiction. And it happened this year, the Drug Education had its annual gathering. It had to cancel 2 gatherings in a row because of COVID. And ordinarily, X number of hundreds of people come. A few days ago, there were 600 some odd. They had to open the doors because so many people were in a hurry to come back and to re-engage. And of course, it's a way of raising money for a very important tzedakah. It happens that this year, or more than happens, Arlene Mitchell and Joy Grodnick were honored by the Drug Education Council. And it was gratifying to see so many people coming back from our community in testimony to the good work, the critical work done by the Mitchell and extended family. And again, as I was looking at the brochure, I saw many familiar faces and names, recognized faces around the room and names on the program. Many of our shul members have been ardent supporters, stalwart supporters, making our world better, planting seeds. That's what tzedakah is all about, planting seeds to improve our lives, our shared lives, and to view people hurrying to come back together again for the sake of tzedakah was a very powerful experience, wanting to continue to plant seeds to improve our world. This year's speaker is an actor. His name is Craig T. Nelson. He's a well-known TV star and movie actor. He's the voice of Mr. Incredible. If you know the animated movies, The Incredibles, he's got a resume this long. And he was the star. He was the glamour power that, of course, brought people into the gathering. And we were talking at the lunch table, and he was an ordinary guy. No airs. He was just a guy. In fact, he was wearing sneakers. Everybody else was wearing jacket and tie. Ladies were wearing party dresses. His wife was there. She was wearing a casual outfit. He was wearing nice pants, a jacket, and sneakers. He's comfortable. And we were talking, I asked where you're from. He said Malibu, and I asked how are things in light of, as we all remember, those fires which decimated Malibu a few years ago. And his face took on an entirely different look. And he spoke from the heart. Very genuine man. And he said, I've been living here for some time. That's my community. That's my home. And we all know, we all saw the fires that just consumed the landscape, destroying many, many homes, and removing the beauty of the trees and the plants and the flowers. And mudslides came forth, and there was just tremendous desolation. And you and I, living in Alabama, always on the edge of hurricanes and tornadoes, know how devastating it is when the world is upside down and with people whom you and I know are living just on an edge. Will they survive? or will they perish? And he began to talk, and he said, a couple weeks after the fires, rain came. And there was a mist, and it stayed for some hours a day. This mist, he said it was a beautiful mist. And then a little while after the mist abated, we began to see new growth, greenery coming up out of blackened soil where homes were gone. We began to see renewal and rebirth. And you could see in his eyes how deeply touched he was. And he said it was almost like looking at the book of Genesis. It's the book of creation. Out of devastation and chaos and loss, there came beauty. And this is my word, order. He said beauty. But if you look at Breshit, it's beauty and order. He said, I began to see seeds planted. It was almost as if God was planting seeds in this desolate earth. It was very meaningful for me to see and to hear a TV and movie actor. He's an actor speaking so sincerely and so genuinely about God, and God as a force for renewal out of desolation and devastation. And I think you and I have seen over the past days, weeks, months, and more, far too much devastation and desolation. I know admittedly that he has embraced God as a close element of support because he's fighting addiction. And you know the 12-step program puts forth the need for having a higher power. And you can call God by any name you so choose. But it wasn't for him just an element of recovery, which is why he was here to speak to the drug education luncheon. It was because he has taken hold of this perspective, this platform, and it's in every part of his life to see the capacity of being renewed and strengthened and uplifted in times of potential loss and fear by God. And how often do you and I talk about reaching out to the someone who can plant the seeds in an experience of devastation and loss and despair? How often do you and I look at a panorama of violence, of terror, and we look past the immediate panorama and we see the potential of a vista of rebirth, renewal, and regrowth? Come to think of it, as we talk about the first month and the seventh month, as we talk about Passover, leaving slavery behind, and you know we begin Passover with matzah and moror. Matzah, no taste, flat, no substance, no texture. Moror, bitterness. And then we end with what? That fifth glass of wine, and Elijah, he's walking in the door, and we're moving forward into a place of redemption. The entire experience of Passover is to bring us up. The entire experience of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are not to break us down, but to liberate us by saying you and I have the opportunity of renewing ourselves because of our connection with God. God who cares, God who is a force for you and for me and for each and every one of us. Tomorrow is a Shabbat with a very special name. It's got a nickname. It's Shabbat HaChodesh, which means the Shabbos of the month, like capital letters, the month. That's what Shabbos is tomorrow, starting in just a few minutes. The Shabbos with the month. The Shabbos, which is a time of 7 days rest, integrated within the month of moving forward. May you and I take hold of what it means to simultaneously rest and move forward. And may you and I realize that we are not alone. We have the source of all sources to bring those seeds of beauty into the world. But we emulate that by bringing seeds of tzedakah into the world as well. May we be so blessed. And we all say, Amen. We rise for the Aleinu. The Aleinu is on page number 56, and in a few moments we'll be making Kiddush at the rear of the room. The Aleinu on page 56. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu k'goyei haratzot, velo samanu kimishpachot adama. Shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'goraleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, shehu noteh shamayim v'yosed haaretz, Moshav Yekaro Bashamayim Mimal, Ushchinatu Zo, Begave Miramim, Hu Eloheinu Enod, Emet Malkeinu Evezulato, Kakatu Bitorato, Yadata Yom Vashebota Elavavecha, Ki Adonai Hu Elohim, Bashamayim Mimal, V'al Haaretz, Mitachat Enod. Kakatu b'toratecha, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed, v'nemar v'haya Adonai le'melech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, yihyeh Adonai echad, Shema echad. In a moment, the Mourner's Kaddish on page number 58. Remembering with great love Madeline Buckman, Ernest James Baer, Simon Miller, Louis Slavin, Louis Barr, Joseph Loeb, Anita Rips, Lena Goldrich, Mary Sherman, Max Maisel, Leon Capeluto, Ida Carol Maisel, Rose Gottlieb Rips, Lois Hegel, Kay Podem. Are there any other names to mention tonight? Perhaps you at home have a name to share? Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Amen. Be'olma divara chirute v'yamlich malchute b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'v'zaman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivarach la'olam ola olmei olmaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yit'halal shmei d'kudusha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran ba'olma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim oleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom oleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May all who are offering prayers in this moment, in times of loss and sorrow, be comforted. And may you know that you're loved. We'll conclude in a few moments. We have a song sheet, and I've chosen this evening to conclude with "Oh, Guide My Steps," which is, in a way, a prayer, you might say. It's almost like Tfilat Haderach, a prayer for a safe journey into the days and time yet to come. May we all be confident that we are loved as we are taking these steps forward into the days ahead. Reminders, of course, tomorrow morning, Shabbos morning. Folks, we have 3 Torahs coming out tomorrow. 3 Torahs. I know, don't worry. I'm planning on reading only from one, but we bring out 3 Torahs. And remember, we missed Simchas Torah twice. Bring out 3 Torahs. One is for Shabbos, one is for Rosh Chodesh, and one is for HaChodesh, which is the month, right? It's very rare to have Rosh Chodesh, the month beginning, and HaChodesh, the Shabbos, occur simultaneously. It's rare. It happens once every 3 or 4 years. So we need a minyan, folks, so please come tomorrow. We'll dance with the Torahs. We'll pretend it's Simchas Torah because we can. And that's the big announcement. Havdalah tomorrow night on Zoom at 7:30. Monday, Tanakh study is on Zoom at noon. Tuesday, Adult Hebrew continues at 3 o'clock on Zoom. And the spirit discussion is adding something new to your, sorry, that's the wrong one. That's wrong, sorry, my mistake. Here it is, this is the Zoom. What can we say to our families? There's a special topic coming forth. It's called Shabbat HaGadol. What can we bring into our Seder for our families? A topic from Shabbat HaGadol. So that's the spirit discussion on Tuesday. And with that, we'll conclude, and then we'll make Kiddush in a moment. Oh, guide my steps.
Oh, guide my steps and help me find my way. I need your shelter now. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps, and help me make this day a song of praise to you. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps.
Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha. Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha.
Oh, guide my steps
Ufros
and help me find my way. I need your shelter now. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps, and help me make this day a song of praise to you. Rock me in your arms and guide my steps.
Good Shabbos. And if you're joining in at home, please join us now making Kiddush. Perhaps have a glass of wine and some bread, and you can join us with Kiddush and Motzi. Kiddush will be on page number 55 in the Siddur, page 55. wine or grape juice, whichever is your preference, and the hamotzi in just a moment. Kiddush on page 55. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kodsho b'yavav v'ratzon inchilanu, zikaron ma'aseh v'reshit, ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu v'acharta, yotanu kidashta, mikol amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, b'ahava uv'ratzon, hinchaltanu, baruch atah Adonai, mikadesh Shabbat. And you might have a piece of bread if you're joining in for the hamotzi. Baruch atah Adonai melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'Elohim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Good Shabbos. Thanks for joining in. Shabbat Shalom. I hope and pray that all is well with you and your family, your loved ones, from this day forward into the new month of Nisan, which starts right now, anticipating the holiday of Passover. Maybe a time of sweetness for you and your loved ones. Leach out until we see each other, hopefully soon in person.